Hello, hello, and welcome to another weekly reading. This week sees us experiencing today, Monday, Mercury, who's been retrograde, moving back into Virgo. And also, we have the first quarter moon on Wednesday. And of course, next Wednesday is going to be the first of two eclipses. So, we're in that week before the eclipse, and that often brings up a lot of whatever the theme is going to be. A lot of the time, these things start happening not exactly on the day. Sometimes it starts happening quite a long way before, and eclipses tend to have that impact where you start feeling it building up quite a way before and or quite a way after the actual eclipse. So anything that is really heightened and triggering you at the moment would be worth paying attention to. So I've brought in Zen Jest and Pink Pepper, both very good spicy kind of oils. So it is about metabolizing what's going on with us. So remember, this is a collective reading, and you should pick a number between 1 and 4 to get a more personalized take on this week's reading for you. And then remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe as we go along, and share any insights, because often what you share inspires other people to see things from a new perspective, or to share something that they may not otherwise have shared. And I really feel like that's pertinent for this reading. So let's jump in. Have you picked your number? Okay, now, isn't it interesting how many court cards we have? 3 out of 4 court cards. We have 1 page, 1 knight, 1 king, and then we have the 9 of swords. We've got 2 right way up, 2 upside down. We have got 2 cups cards, a pentacles, and a sword. So no fire in this week's reading. And I very, very much feel that eclipse in Pisces next week kind of beginning to roll like waves through us. First of all, we've got 2 water cards, and I really want to speak into something that seems very pertinent in this reading for us, is that we've been talking about the changes that we've been undergoing for years, and how we're each doing our own work and excavating that stuff. And what I feel like this week's reading really shows us, that has also been thematic, is that ebb and flow, that feels good, that feels bad, that's working, that's not working, and kind of normalizing that, so that we don't expect ourselves to just get better and better and better if we do the work, but that we can accept that challenges are going to arise no matter what happens. And then for me, this week is very strongly speaking into the masculine journey. So that would be the divine masculine, and that means that it doesn't matter what gender you are or how you identify, that is a part of you as well. It's that yin and yang energy, the yang part of you. So for already a very long time, women have been starting, or the feminine in each of us has been starting to re-empower. After many hundreds of years of patriarchy, the feminine has been rising. Whether you're whatever gender you are, that feminine energy in you has been rising. But in recent years, the masculine is trying to catch up, which I feel is very exciting, because we don't want to just go from a patriarchal society to a matriarchal society, to a patriarchal society to a matriarchal society over generations and generations. What we want to do is find the balance. That is the ideal. Now, woman or the feminine is kind of ahead in turning their corner, and that is because it was a patriarchal society. So the more oppressed energy has kind of rebelled and transformed and whatnot, whereas the less oppressed energy, although still oppressed, because the masculine is not at his healthiest when he is in that sort of patriarchal power over the feminine. That is actually not the best place for the masculine. And this is where I feel this reading is really speaking to us. So it brings in the sweet, naive, idealistic, romantic Page of Cups, who is dreaming of the most amazing romance with the feminine, the way to one day raise a family. And I'm talking archetypally here. So it's not just about love when we look at cups, but I want you to imagine this young sort of teenage boy getting all mushy and emotional and reflective on the kind of life he's going to live as an adult. And I want you to realize that he has stars in his eyes. He believes that he can do anything, like we all sort of feel when we're young, that the world is our oyster. And we're not jaded yet. We may be naive, but we're not yet jaded and tarnished by life's challenges as much. And obviously, again, archetypally, we each have our own story. So here he is in this beautiful space. And I want you to tap into this week, especially if you drew this card, that part of you, that young, curious energy. And I have to say, this doesn't always have to be a masculine card. It could also be a young feminine card, but very much in the speaking of this reading, it feels like a masculine energy that we're dealing with. So I want you to look at if you're a woman, look at the men in your life and their storylines, but also look at the inner masculine. So that's upright, it's idealistic, it's ready to dream a beautiful new future. And then we step into the King of Cups in protection. Now, ideally, if the Page of Cups is doing his journey, he becomes the Knight of Cups, he slays some of his own dragons, and he grows and matures and ultimately becomes a wise, emotionally intelligent, reflective, sensitive, compassionate, kind, benevolent king. Because this has come, because this has come upside down, he's actually not really grown up. So in fact, in some ways, he's still this idealistic young knight in a man's body, and he's sort of missed the growth. So we look at him in the picture as an older man, and we think, well, he should have his shit together. And then we wonder why he doesn't. And I feel like we all need to look at how many, literally how many men in the world we maybe have that expectation of, like because they are older and wiser, they should have it together at this point, and how judgy we are based on the patriarchal way of being, that we have not allowed them to tap into the cups aspect, the emotional aspect. We haven't let men, those sayings like, big boys don't cry and toughen up and suck it up. Those are exactly taking away from the journey of this sweet young man. And if you have boy children, or if have nephews, or you've known young men that you can call to your attention at this point, I want you to think about how sweet little boys are and how affectionate and how emotionally sensitive little boys are. And then somewhere along the way, they're expected to act tough and mature and strong and achieve and provide, where they're not allowed to feel their feelings. And that leads us to the upside down King of Cups. He's not in a healthy way. And I feel like that's part of our journey here, to tap back into the ideal, tap back into the dream of that young part of yourself, that young idealistic internal masculine. And then how do I grow him up? How do I mature him? Because he's throwing a little bit of a tantrum, and he's being a bit of a drama king, and he wants to get his own way, and he's not able to be water is reflective, it's mirroring and modeling, and this king can't do that because he's not whole and healed. And it feels a little bit like the antidote to that is to go back to the knight, the journey that in a natural trajectory, we would have a knight between a page and a king. And it's saying, okay, but let's get really practical about it. This is an earthy Knight of Pentacles. And let's just put one foot in front of the other. Let's take this journey slow. It's okay to go backwards, to go forwards. It's okay to unplug, to replug in, to disconnect, to reconnect, that kind of thing. You're not failing when you go backwards. Sometimes you have to go back to understand where the pattern got stuck. What part of you, there's many parts of us, and some of those parts have not been tended to. So you might be a really great achieving king on some levels, but not on that emotionally intuitive, sensitive, reflective side of yourself. And some practicality, some breathe and slow down. And also I just want to mention that earth and water are both feminine elements. So it's almost like the masculine needs to reconnect to the inner feminine, which has become more empowered over years collectively, but maybe not in you individually. So that's something you need to ask yourself as well. But recognizing that the antidote to the imbalance in the internal masculine is in some ways tapping into the feminine just by virtue of the elements that we're speaking into here. And then we kind of backtrack into a bit of a nightmarish space with the Nine of Swords, especially upside down. It can lead to paranoia and just completely getting obsessive and overwhelmed and anxious and literally having nightmares or feeling like you're living a nightmare where you just don't really want to see. And you have to remember that sometimes if you reflect back, and suddenly you have this insight about something that's been under your nose all this time and caused so much trauma and turmoil maybe in your relationships, in your work, in your living over the years. And you think, it was there all along. Why couldn't I see this sooner? And then you start spiraling, and paranoia and mistrust and all of that maybe kicks in. I want you to remember to, again, come back to the Knight of Pentacles, because this is also a swords card is air. It's a story of our mind. And it's really important to recognize that we can reflect back intellectually with our mind. We can look back and we can think about the storyline, and we can think about how we maybe missed certain steps in our lives, which is obvious. We're all going to miss steps up to this point in our life and moving forward, because that's just life. There's so much nuance going on. We can't possibly do it all perfectly. And so sometimes we have to have a trauma, we have to block something out, and then down the line we have to come back and go, oh, I get why I've always been this way within my relationships. I get why I've never been able to stick to a job, because suddenly it makes sense when we're ready. Everything happens in this kind of cyclical way. It's a process. You can't get there till you get there. But when you get there, not to let your mind, Nine of Swords, overwhelm you and freak you out and put you into this paranoid, overwhelmed space where you feel like there's no way out, because sometimes you have to go through that challenging experience for a short space of time to recognize the triggers and the pattern, and then change your mind. Change your mind. Rewire your thinking. And that sounds really simple, and it's really not, because it does require consistency, and it takes work, it takes effort. But that's exactly what the Knight of Pentacles represents. He represents putting in the work every single day, doing what needs doing. And this eclipse next week is in Pisces, and Saturn, who is very structured and ordered and puts effort in over time, he is also in Pisces. So this is very much an opportunity for us to go into the feelings. Pisces is the final water sign. It is the ocean of emotion. It is the collective story that we have all been on for hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years, and how we want to rework it, repattern it. So it is a bit overwhelming in that it's not just about your individual journey. When Pisces comes in as an archetype, it's about all of us. But all of us is too hard. We cannot drink the whole ocean, but we can work on the drop that we are. So I think the lesson here is very much to just dive into your inner masculine. Where have I disempowered my inner masculine? Where have I disempowered other men in my life? Or the masculine in other women? Where have I judged women for being things that would be considered masculine? So these are the things that you have to ask yourself. And in asking yourself that, be patient, be kind, be compassionate. Don't let your mind loop into overwhelm and paranoia. Rather try to tell yourself a new way of being, one step after the other. I hope this has been helpful, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you so much for watching.